So first off, good morning. I just want to say thank you to everybody who supports us and who helped us get to Miami this week. Even just so far in the one day, it's been an amazing trip, and it's done a lot of good for the Jewish people. Thank God. Bezat Hashem, it should be more and more in the next day or so. So thank you for all your prayers, and thank you for all your support financially as well. That also paid for this trip. So, you guys are doing amazing. You're just as much a part of this as I am, or any of the guys that work for Tzion. And so I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to everybody for making this possible. And now I want to continue this beautiful Torah that we're learning right now in Likutey Halachot. And that is, what was the real difference between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel when it came to Hanukkah? Why is it that Beit Shammai was saying that the light should decrease over time, where Beit Hillel was saying that they should increase? So we said an amazing point that Rav Natan teaches. That is, that Beit Shammai was very, very, very makpid on himself. He held himself to a very high standard, both spiritually and in all ways. And his students ended up taking that same approach, as well as with others. And as a result of that, when he saw others who were not holding in the same spiritual place as him, that they were not showing that same level of effort or that same level of running after Hashem that he was. So he had a hard time connecting to them, to the extent that he literally pushed them away. However, we see with Hillel, so Rav Natan says, because of his true humility and because of his tremendous wisdom, he was able to not only do the opposite, but to be so successful in helping those people who were far. And this is the ikar, this is the main reason why the lights go up according to Hillel versus Shammai. Because Shammai was trying to mimic Hashem in the way that he understood, which was that in the beginning of the Bria, in the beginning of creation, when Hashem created this world, it says that he created this spiritual light, this or, this tremendous or that really represents consciousness. Like the root of the word Torah is or, meaning light. So Torah, we know, represents the highest wisdom. So what was this light that's shown in the beginning of creation, which Adam saw from the beginning until the end of the world with? This was the light of Torah, not the Torah that we have now, but the Torah of Atik Yomin, the Torah of ancient days. And this is the Torah which is going to be the Torah of Mashiach, Bezrat Hashem. And it says that Hashem, when he saw that in the future, we wouldn't use it for a benefit for us or for the world, so he stored it away for those people who had attained a certain level that he felt comfortable to give that light over to them. Because obviously we know that knowledge is power. And Rabbi Nachman teaches that knowledge is light. And for light, you need a vessel. And if you don't have a vessel, like if you stick like right now, this computer, I stuck it into the outlet over here. So if I stuck my plug into the actual main center where all of the energy comes out, the electric energy comes out in the power plant in Miami, so my computer would explode. But because I stick it into the side right here, where it's perfect for my computer, so now, thank God, it's the just right amount of light. So therefore, so to speak, the outlet is like a vessel for the light of the electricity. So too with us, we need to have vessels to contain that light. Beit Shammai was following Hashem in that he saw that we wouldn't have the vessels in the future to hold that light. So he stored it away only for those people who worked to be able to. But the way that Hillel saw it was the opposite, was that the more light that we receive from Hashem, it's not that we have to decrease the light in the world and we have to hide it and store it away for those tzaddikim that know how to be able to channel it and use it in a way which is beneficial for them and those around them. But he had an amazing chidush and a different approach, that is, take that same light, that intensity of light that the tzaddikim are receiving, and levush it, enclothe it. Take that light and contract it and constrict it so that those people who are not connected, who are not close to Hashem in the same way, that would be a benefit for them to have this light. But if you enclose that light, now that light can actually be a benefit to everybody. So what does that mean practically? Like we see, for instance, with Rabbi Nachman, he didn't just teach Torah lessons. He also gave over conversation pieces. These conversation pieces are filled with the depths of Torah and Kabbalah and Chassidut, but they just sound like conversations. This is called an enclothing. Also, the greatest enclothing that Rabbi Nachman did is he took mamash, the deepest secrets that Rabbi Nachman says they actually come literally from that Orika news, that light from the beginning of creation, from ancient days, where he wrote something called Sipori Masiot. He took this tremendous light, this great consciousness that's only going to be revealed in the times of Mashiach, and he enclosed it over many, many, many times into the form of what looked like children's stories. That this was the only way that we would be able to receive that light in a way that was not only beneficial for us, that we could understand, that wouldn't cause us harm, but it still contains that light. That light is still just as much there as if it was revealed completely. It's just enclosed many times over. So these are Rabbi Nachman's stories in English. This is the reason why when people read those stories, a lot of times the mamash have like this ratzon, this hidlavut, this fire out of nowhere that I want to get so close to Hashem. I want to talk to Hashem. I want to learn His Torah. I want to connect in a deeper way. Even though they read a story about a prince and a king and a fly and a page and a turkey and a prince. And you think like, how is it that that's going to evoke such an intense response that now you want to go run after spirituality? And the answer is because these stories are the deepest things that we have, but they're enclosed many times over. And this was the approach of Hillel. Don't remove the light from them, just enclose it. And this is how you take care of the problem. And in fact, as the darkness increases, so we need even more light. And we need to enclose it even more. So this was the approach of Hillel and Beit Hillel, that we're going to not disconnect ourselves from those people who are not as close to Hashem as we are. We're not going to disconnect ourselves from those people who are not as learned. We're not going to disconnect ourselves from those people who are not as affluent. We are going to actually makarv. We are going to draw close those people who are furthest through love, through kindness, through genuinity, through humility, through enclothing of those things that we know, that light that we have. And this is why we paskin according to Beit Hillel, because the whole ikar of Hanukkah, according to the Arizal, is the fact that this great ore from the 7 days of creation is now shining into this world, and it comes to our homes. We don't have to go to it. It comes to us. And according to Halacha, it's the one thing that the sages say we should make, that the Hanukkah should be placed less than 10 tefachim. We know that the measurement of 10 is always the concept of kedusha, godliness, and that mostly you have to do above 10. That's why with the sukkah, like we said yesterday, the sukkah has to be above 10. It can't be below it, because the sukkah represents God consciousness, that you're submerged in it, you're surrounded by it. You're like in a womb, says Rabbi Nachman says. You're in a womb of God consciousness, which is transcendent. But you have to get yourself to that sukkah. On Hanukkah, this light comes to you. That no matter how far you are, the light comes into your home. And that's why it's below 10 tefachim, to signify and to symbolize that this light is going to those places that are furthest. And it's contracted and it's constricted within the candles themselves. That you have this infinite light of fire, but then you put it on one wick. And that wick represents a constriction, that now you have constricted the light of the fire, of the light of Hashem, but now it's a benefit. Now it lights up my home. It gives brilliance, it gives luminance, it gives warmth. And obviously deeper than that, it gives a higher consciousness. Because a person that he's sick very much, he needs to run after this great rabbi, this great sage, this great spiritual master. And what do we say sickness means? To be spiritually sick doesn't mean I have a headache. Or it does, but not in the way that you think it is. It means that I feel far from Hashem. To be a chole spiritually means that I have what's called mochin de katnut. In the language of Kabbalah and Chassidut, that means constricted consciousness, means that I'm sleeping. That because I'm spiritually asleep, this is called to be sick or to be ill. So therefore, Rabbi Nachman says that tzaddikim are mamash spiritual doctors. Because for a person that he is sleeping, this is where the tzaddik comes in. That he can awaken you from your sleep. Like Rabbi Nachman used to say, that the world says that stories are to put people to sleep. However, I say that stories are to wake people up. Because this is the whole concept of the great rabbi, of the great sage, the great teacher, the great tzaddik, the great leader, the master of the field. That he's able to take everybody, no matter how far they are, no matter how sick they are, no matter how much that they're sleeping, and he's able to wake you up. Kmo ken harabi v'tzadik. Like thus, this rabbi that is mamish the tzaddik emet, he's a true tzaddik. That the further you are from being awake spiritually, the further you are from consciousness of amuna, of simcha, of joy, of connection to Hashem, of feeling His unity in your life, in all areas of your life. To that degree, you're called sleeping. And to that degree, you need a greater rabbi, a greater sage, a greater tzaddik, one who's able to wake you up and to take that very, very, very great light and to enclose it over many, many times for you. So not only are you able to understand it, but you haven't lost that light, that only that light is capable of waking you up from that sleep. That this very great tzaddik, he's able to go to those people who have katanim, that they're considered like children spiritually, that they are very far. And this is the essence of his greatness. That he's able to draw close those who are far. And this is one of the, I think, you see, even in the world of, let's say, Chassidut versus the world of Kiruv in like the more Litvish or traditional Jewish world, there's a concept, I believe, that I've seen that in the traditional Jewish world, which comes from the Vilna Gaon, that you come to the yeshiva, that we get you to the yeshiva. And if I can get you to the yeshiva, so then you'll be submerged in the light of Hashem, and Bezrat Hashem, you're going to have an awakening and you're going to want to be close to Hashem. However, we see that some people have never even heard of yeshiva, and that there are other people that they are so fallen in constricted consciousness, fear, anger, sadness, confusion, that even when they are in the yeshiva, they're not there. Because like the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbi Nachman teach, you are where your mind is. So wherever your mind is, you're there mamish. So even if you're in yeshiva, but your mind is not in yeshiva, you don't even have a chance to connect. And we know that the majority of people in our generation, those people who are far because of this bilbul of the mind, the confusion of the mind, the disconnect, the sleepiness, that even if they do have the zchut to even hear that there's such a thing as yeshiva, that even if they get in there, like me, that for years you're sitting there, you can't even feel the chiyut, the life force of the Torah, because you have such confusion of the mind. So comes the Baal Shem Tov to say, we don't need to bring people to us anymore. We need to go out to people. That for the Mashiach to come, for the Geula to come, we don't need to bring people panimim, we need to go chutza. And this is what the Mashiach told the Baal Shem Tov, that when your teachings go chutza, then we're going to have Geula. Why? Because this is the whole concept of Hanukkah. That the whole approach to the Baal Shem Tov is the approach of Hanukkah. That the Baal Shem Tov and Rabbi Nachman understood that people are not just a little far from Hashem. I think that people don't realize in the traditional Jewish world, which thank God, for good reasons, because that's the only world that they know, they don't realize the gap between them and where they are with Hashem, and let's say where we are or where we've been in the secular world to get to Hashem. They think it's just, okay, this guy's Jewish, when he starts to see it and he connects, something's going to happen. They don't realize how big that bridge is. It is a bridge that goes from one end of existence to the other. And it's really mamash a Hanukkah type of situation, that it can't be, so to speak, that we go to the sukkah, that we go to the yeshiva to receive this God consciousness and to wake up, because we may not even know that there's a sukkah. Or even if we're in the sukkah, our minds are not in the sukkah. So for us, we need Hanukkah. We need the Baal Shem Tov. We need Rabbi Nachman, that he is going to go below 10 tefachim, and he's going to come to your house, and he's going to come to where you are, and he's going to speak to you in your language, and he is going to not decrease the light because he's scared that you're going to misuse it. He is going to, with his tremendous wisdom, he's going to increase the light for you, because the greater in darkness you are, it's taught in Chassidut, the more light you need, not the less. However, you need tremendous wisdom to be able to lavush it, to enclose that light in a way which is beneficial for that person, no matter how far he is. And you need many enclothements for those people. And this is the entire Ikar of Chassidut, that Chassidut is an enclothement of that great ore of Kabbalah. That anybody, even if they are, like Baal Shem Tov said, a simple potato farmer, that they can connect to this very deep light, the light that will only be shined in full in a revealed way in the times of Mashiach, that we can experience in our limited way now through the teachings of Chassidut. And specifically, more than anything, I believe, and I know in my heart, for our generation, before Mashiach comes, the teachings of Rabbi Nachman ben Fega, that there is no person who can go into the depths of those people who are involved in substance abuse and who are so connected, and all of their pleasure in the world comes from sexuality and not used in a way which is conducive to benefit them or their family. And these are good people we're speaking about. We're not talking about horrible people. We're talking about amazing, nice, kind Jewish people who literally have just been so submerged in the secular world for 200 years, for 300 years. They don't know what Shabbat is. They don't know what Hashem is. They never even, I didn't hear the word Hashem until I was 24 years old. So how are those people going to get help from traditional Jewish sources? It's going to have to be very creative. It's going to have to be very deep. It's going to have to be very practical. It's going to have to be very powerful. And this is Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Nachman said that my fire is going to burn until Mashiach comes. And what does that mean? It means mamish, that my fire is going to be the fire that burns, that brings the coming of Mashiach. Because we know that it's taught. Rav Yitzchak Ginsburg, he's a big chassid of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, but he is a genius in all chassidut and in all science and math and X, Y, and Z. And he explains that at Har Sinai, when we got the revelation of the Torah, this revelation of Hashem came through nevuah, it came through prophecy, that we had direct, intimate revelation of godliness in our life, and that was what caused our original geula, our original redemption. He says, though, at the end, the redemption of Mashiach, the geula of the Mashiach, will not come from nevuah, because we know nevuah is gone from the world. And so it won't come from the fire of nevuah. We know that there was fire at Har Sinai, but it will come from the fire of Torah. That when Torah reaches the state of fire, this is what's going to bring the geula for the Jewish people. And there is no Torah that's fire like the Eish of Rabbi Nachman ben Fega. That's mamish Eish. Mamish Eish. And so this is what we're saying now, that who's the tzaddik emet? The person who has the ability, the power, the strength, the wisdom, the compassion, the humility to not just have the ability to teach those people who are far, but that he wants to, that his whole mind and heart and soul is bound up only with trying to help those people who are furthest and having the koach and the strength to actually do it. I once had a person who came to me and he told me, I'll tell you the truth, even amongst Hasidic masters and the more famous ones that you've heard of and that more people have heard of than even Rabbi Nachman, says when I give over something that they say, sometimes it sticks to secular people, but often it doesn't make an impression. And he told me, I'll be honest with you, and I'm not so familiar with Rabbi Nachman's teachings and X, Y, and Z as much as I am with, let's say, Chabad or other types of Hasidus. But he told me that whenever I say anything over from Rabbi Nachman to anybody, it sticks and it makes a mark. And my experience has been the same exact thing now for 5, 6, 7 years. Anytime I say anything from Rabbi Nachman to anybody, and obviously it's become more potent and powerful as I've connected and invested myself, and it's become more authentic for me in my own personal life. When I give it over now, that obviously it's heard in a different way. But every person, whether he's been learning in yeshiva his whole life, whether he's a Rosh Yeshiva, whether he is a Talmid Chacham who is in Kollel, whether it is a person who is he's in business and he works full time, but he also learns a little bit and he keeps the mitzvot and halachot and he keeps Shabbat. Whether it's a person who mamish, he just became Baal Tshuva, whether it's a person he's never heard of Hashem at all in his life, whether he's Sephardic or he's Ashkenazi or he's Edom Mizrahi, it doesn't make a difference. When anybody hears the Torah of Rabbi Nachman, not videos of Rabbi Nachman, not what's said about Rabbi Nachman and his students, but mamish that he hears the Torah of Rabbi Nachman, there is a fire that burns in that person's heart. And he wants to go run after Hashem. It's an unbelievable thing. It's not natural. It's not normal. And Bezrat Hashem, this is what Sion is trying to accomplish, that we're trying to get this Torah out to those people who need it the most. One of the things that we really would like to do, Bezrat Hashem, long term, is I want to get this into psych wards. I want to get this into jail cells. I mamish want to get this into those places that are furthest. Obviously, we're going to need a lot more financial help to be able to do things like that. Bezrat Hashem, we hope to have a fundraiser soon and hopefully raise enough that we can be able to start to do these things. Obviously, I've spoken in the past, we're writing a book right now as well. This book, we believe, Bezrat Hashem, can get into those places that are very far from Hashem, that are very far from yeshiva, that are very far from the normative Jewish world, into those places that into the therapist office, into the psychiatrist office, into the Barnes and Nobles, that they should be able to go and get audiobooks of it, to go very, very far. Thank God we just started raising for the fundraiser. We've had a few students who have contributed from their heart a beautiful amount that has helped us already tremendously for the next couple months. We're going to need a lot more than that. But this is the whole effort of what we're trying to do, to take this Torah that we're talking about right now and to bring it to fruition, to get the tzaddik into those places. Because once he's there, that's it. It doesn't make a difference. When you are confronted with the truth of Rabbi Nachman ben Fega, your heart melts. That you go from having a lave that is stone to a basar lave, to a heart of flesh. Rabbi Nachman said that at the end of time, everybody's going to be Breslov. So obviously when people hear that, they go, oh, agenda, here's another agenda. We have another person who's talking about how he has the truth and nobody else has it, X, Y, and Z. But you don't understand the ikar, the depth of what he's saying. He's not saying a chiddush. It says it in the prophets that at the end of times, that the Jewish people are all going to have a leiv basar. That if you flip the letters of Breslov around, it's a leiv basar, a heart of flesh. That when Mashiach comes, that the Yetzer Hara is going to be, it's going to be completely obliviated with the coming of Mashiach. And what you're going to be left with instead of a heart of stone is a heart of flesh. And Rabbi Nachman said, the only difference between me and Mashiach and the Torah that I teach and the Torah that Mashiach is going to teach is that nobody listens to me and everybody is cholek on me and opposes me, but everybody's going to listen to Mashiach. That's the only difference. And when a person really has this chut to just learn the Torah without all of the baggage, without all of the noise, without all of the preconceived notions, he will mamish make that person, whether he feels he knows everything or he feels he doesn't know anything, he is going to turn his heart into a heart of flesh, one which is humble, one which is yearning for truth, which is yearning for good, which is yearning for unity, which is yearning for connection and peace and wholeness in their life, and which can take away and can elevate all of the traumas and all of the abuse and all of the horrors that we've all been through in our own personal ways in our life. That Rabbi Nachman has this koach that's not normal, that his Torah can literally, like I heard another rabbi say, it will knock you into the experience of dveikut with Hashem. That as opposed to, let's say, other rabbis or even other Hasidic masters, where they speak about certain concepts, and you would probably have to work and to apply yourself for many years to be able to experience and taste what they say, that with Rabbi Nachman, you can literally hear the Torah that he teaches, and it can knock you into feeling one with Hashem. And this is mala min hateva. This is completely above nature, and there's no way to explain this. And this is mamish what our generation needs. Shezehu ikar gedulat Hashem yiparach uchvodo. That this is the ikar of Hashem's greatness and His honor. Meaning that you would think that maybe the greatest thing that I could do is I could hide everything that I know, like Shammai thought, because he learned from Hashem in the beginning of creation that he hid his light. However, we know that the Gemara also says that wherever you see Hashem's greatness, there you're going to see His humility. And there's many different explanations for this very famous Gemara, but Rabbi Nachman is explaining what it means is that His greatness is in the fact that He is so humble that He wants to shine Himself down specifically to those places that are furthest, to those people who are most sick, most ill. Like it says that Hashem is always over the head, the Shekhinah is always over the head of a chole, over a sick person. And the way that we usually understand that is that he's physically sick. And therefore the Shekhinah is resting there. And this is why the mitzvah of going to visit a sick person is so great, not even just for the sick person themselves, but for you as well, because the Shekhinah is mamish there for any Jewish person who's physically sick. However, Rabbi Nachman is teaching that this illness is not just physical. When a person has spiritual illness, that is, that he feels far from Hashem, that means that Hashem's there even more. And this we can't understand. This is something that's so far from us, but this is the greatness of Hashem. That Hashem does not desire, even though obviously He desires to be with everybody. But what He desires more than anything is to be with the orphan, is to be with the widow, to be with the divorcee, to be with the substance abuse, the person who's dealt with substance abuse and addiction, the person who's dealt with depression and anxiety and mental health issue. Those people that, so to speak, when they come into yeshiva, you don't know how to deal with those people who have been in prison for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They have tattoos all over their body. They have earrings in their ears. And they come in and they say, I want to learn about Hashem. And they tell you about all the horrifying things that they've seen. You haven't even heard about in movies or in television or in stories. You don't even know what to do with it. Those same people, they go to Uman for Rosh Hashanah and they literally feel an awakening and a connection, a non-judgmentalness, that they feel just as much a part of Klal Yisrael as a person who's been learning since the beginning of his life, that grew up in a religious family, that didn't know anything else besides Judaism, that didn't know anything else besides Torah, that keeps mitzvot his whole entire life, that doesn't even know what it is to be Mechalel Shabbat. That this person who's never done anything, when he goes to Uman, he doesn't feel from those people there any different than the rabbi who's there who learns Yom V'Layla. And the reason is because this was the koach of Rabbi Nachman, that he made us all so humble, to make us realize that if you don't feel close to Hashem, you're so much closer than you realize, that Hashem is even more with you. And if you feel that you're close to Hashem and you do already know what's up, then Rabbi Nachman will show you, you don't know anything. I just spoke to somebody actually right now. I had a beautiful conversation with him. I actually saw him in Uman for Chanukah, Hashgacha Pratit, that he's here right now. And I was speaking to him and he told me, I feel like there's 3 levels of teshuvah. There's 3 levels of returning to Hashem in truth. The first level is a person realizes Hashem exists. And he says that's obviously life-changing, that's amazing, that's huge, that's the biggest moment of your life. But then you find chassidut, and then you do a second teshuvah, and you realize that, wow, I haven't even started to do teshuvah yet. I didn't really connect to Hashem yet. I didn't really have oneness with Hashem. I don't really know Hashem yet. That I do the mitzvot and I learn Torah, but I don't actually experience Hashem in my life. He is not the I don't feel Eino Milvado. And now all of a sudden I am exposed to the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov and his students, and now I do another type of teshuvah, and I return even closer to Hashem. And then he said, ultimately, then if you have the zchut, you do the 3rd level of teshuvah, that you do the teshuvah of Rabbi Nachman, of Breslev Chassidut. That when you are confronted with the teachings of Rabbi Nachman, the advice of Rabbi Nachman, the directives of Rabbi Nachman, that you realize that even amongst Chassidut, you have not done teshuvah yet. And you have an ability now to really know Hashem and to connect even more. And that this is the highest level. And I've heard this, by the way, from many different places. And this has been my experience as well, the same exact process of teshuvah with Hashem, teshuvah with Chassidut, teshuvah with Rabbi Nachman. And and really mamish knowing that this is going to bring the geula, this is going to bring the redemption for the Jewish people, and to get these teachings to those places that are furthest. And this is Hanukkah, that we need Hanukkah not just in the times of Hanukkah, we need Hanukkah mamish all year, that we're able to get this light to those places that are furthest all day and night. Because even though for sure, bavadai, absolutely, you do need to conceal this great light. You do need to hide this great light. And specifically, those people who have reached this highest level of perceptions of godliness, for sure, they are compelled that they're forced. They must hide and they must store away and conceal that light that they have received. Because the world is not a fitting vessel, a keli for it. So there's no stira. They don't hold different than the Litvaks, that you should conceal that light. But the way that the Litvaks conceal it is they learn Kabbalah in private, they learn Zohar in private, maybe they learn Chassidut even in private. And they feel that it shouldn't be given over to anybody else because they hold like Beit Shammai. However, Rabbi Nachman and the Baal Shem Tov and Rav Natan are teaching us that even though they need to hide it, they don't need to hide it by hiding it, meaning the light doesn't go out. They just need to come up with tremendous strategies to be able to give that light out in a concealed, constricted way. Tremendous strategies and cheshbonot. They said that Rabbi Nachman was busy with this every day, always, every day, trying to find new ways to enclose this light and to get it further out to people who are even further and further and further. And to rectify great rectifications, to come up with great tikkunim, and to enclose the light, the levushim, with enclosements, with tzitzumim, and with contractions, niflaim ke'ele, wondrous enclosements, wondrous above understanding contractions. Until that is, you're able to illuminate the light of those people who are very far, all the way up. And you see this so many times, especially with the students of Rabbi Nachman. Even for myself, a person who engaged in substance abuse, a person who engaged in unhealthy sexual behaviors, and a person who had reached the depths of mental health crisis, that Rabbi Nachman can take a person like me and not just take me out, but mamish transform my life and flip it the other way completely. That you have people like Gedalia, who I believe I've been told, I don't know if it's for sure, so please forgive me, that he had a gambling addiction, that he's been through a tremendous divorce, that you have other people like Rav Arush, who were in mind-numbing debt which would suffocate any human being to think that you're in such a debt like this. And through Rabbi Nachman's teachings, not just to come out, but now to literally be shining emunah to the whole world. That you have other people who are addicted to substances, who have been in jail, who have even had sex rings that I've known about. That they literally were the owners of sex rings, that they brought in females who were sold in the slave sex trade and brought into Israel, Russians, and that they were the cause of this. And now they're mamish Hasidim, who they go to Uman every year, and they've spread emunah in the world, and they did tshuva the whole opposite way. That this is the koach mamish of Rabbi Nachman. That he had the ability, the koach, the wisdom to be able to not just have this very high level of God consciousness, but to be able to draw it down to those places that are furthest, and to want to. That his whole being was bound up with this because he wanted to, because he knew Hashem wanted this. That this was what the Geula, when Mashiach told the Baal Shem Tov, when these teachings go chutza, ma'asecha chutza, when they pour out into all depths of existence, then we're going to have the Geula. Then we're going to have the redemption, personally and collectively. And through this, and through this, that we have an increase and a gathering of the light to those places that are furthest every day more and more. Bichinat mosifa holech. And this is the reason, according to Chassidut, according to Kabbalah, according to Rabbi Nachman, says Rav Natan Zal, why it is that we increase the amount of lights and don't decrease them. Because according to Beit Hillel, according to Hillel, and this is how we paskin according to Halacha, meaning Hashem paskins like this, Hashem says, no, don't decrease the lights. Don't hide that very deep light that you are getting on your own. You need to give it over to other. The light needs to increase in a revealed way to everybody else. We need to increase the aura of Torah and to get it out to those people who are furthest. But we just need to enclose it. And that's the concept of the candle. The candle is that you're constricting that light. And even though it's increasing and you're increasing the exposure of it and you're bringing it below 10 tefachim to those places that are furthest, still you're not losing the light. You're actually increasing the light as the days go on. But it's in a way which is levush, which is enclosed through the teachings of Chassidut. That is the lights increasing. This is Hanukkah. Ki ma'alin bekodesh v'lo moridin. Because we elevate in Kedusha, we don't go down, because it's a very important concept in Halacha. It's a very important concept in Shas and Gemara. It's a very important concept in Kabbalah for sure, in Chassidut. You do not go down in Kedusha, you only go up. That's the reason why when you put on tefillin, you start with the arm tefillin and then you put on the head, even though the head is Ikar. Because the head is Ikar, meaning it's the most essential part, and it's holier than the arm tefillin, so to speak. So you can only go up in Kedusha. So we even see, even halachically, according to Jewish law, you have to start with the lower level of godliness and move up, because you're not allowed to go down in Kedusha. You have to go up, okay? So he's saying now that this principle comes from Masechet Shabbat, the Gemara in Shabbat, that we only go up in Kedusha, we don't go down. V'chi yaleh al hada'at lo'rid ha'kedusha chas v'shalom ach shu bechinat. That it's a difficulty, because when he ascends in his consciousness and then he descends the Kedusha and the peace, chas v'shalom. Sheyesh tzadikim shehem gedolim b'mala be'emet. Because there are tzadikim that they are mamash elevated in truth. Like in a way that is, even though they're in this world and they look like they're here and they might sound like you and they might look like you, that in truth they have reached a state of consciousness which is much higher than you can possibly fathom. However, because of their great levels of Kedusha, they can't bear the world. They can't bear the materialism of the world. They can't bear the sophistication of the world. They can't bear the superficiality of the world. They can't bear the taivas of the world. They can't bear the modern world. They can't bear it, because they see how big of a lie it is, and therefore they can't even hear about it with their back not cringing up. They certainly can't speak to the person who he's yelling at them or saying ridiculous things to him, like, teach me the whole Torah on one foot. He's going to push him away with a stick, because he can't bear it, because he has so much light. And therefore, through the strength of their holiness, their godliness, that they chas v'shalom, they do the opposite, that they end up chas v'shalom bringing down the kedusha of the Jewish people, because they get angry at them, because they're not able to bear their actions, which are so dark, which are so coarse, which are so far from kedusha and from tahara, from purity and from holiness. He says, but Hashem doesn't want this. Because he brings the pasuk in Micha that Hashem desires chesed. Chafetz chesed hu. Hashem wants kindness. He wants love. That he desires that the tzaddikim should have compassion and empathy on the Jewish people always. And to bring them close. Afilu im kamohem. Even if they're not like him. Vafilu imhu, and even if he is ba'atzmo yiparach b'cha'as gadol, and even if he himself, Hashem, b'cha'as gadol alehem, that Hashem kivahol, so to speak, he himself is angry at them. Mechamad shema'aseim harim, because of the things that they're doing, that he himself is not in a good place with that person. Who wrote tzadikim? He still desires that the tzadikim yipalu aleihem v'kravam, then this is a paradox. Why would it be that Hashem, so to speak, is hiding from that person, and yet he wants his messengers, he wants his shluchim to go out and to do the opposite, not to be angry like their father is, but to go pray for that person? This is a paradox. This is something that we can't understand. But Rav Natan is saying that Hashem, even if he is angry, or he feels that there is a disconnect between him and that person, he still wants that those people who are growing spiritually, who have tasted the light of godliness, of oneness, of the or of Hashem, they shouldn't do like Hashem in that point. That he should mamish pray and plead and cry with Hashem, that they should come close to him. Like it says in the Midrash Rabbah, in Shemot Rabbah. Al pasuk, and the pasuk, Moshe yikach et ha'ochel v'nata lo michutz lemachaneh harchek min ha'machaneh. That Moshe took the tent and he set it up outside of the camp, harchek min ha'machaneh, from outside, far from the camp itself. Mechamat shchatu kokach. Why? Because they had sin there. So because that in the camp, the Jewish people were engaged in things which was blemishing Kedusha. It was drawing away from godliness. Moshe moved his tent out of there. Amar Hashem Yiparach, and said Hashem Yiparach, Ani b'chas v'ata b'chas, im ken mik yarvem. That Hashem says to Moshe, I'm angry with them. V'ata mechas, you're angry with them. Im ken mi yakavim, who's going to help them then? It's such a powerful midrash. Oh my gosh, I got the chills as I'm reading it. Hashem saying, I'm angry with them. Now you're also angry with them. So who's going to save them? Who's going to help them? Who's going to bring them close? Kamuva b'ferish Rashi, like Rashi explains that. That we see with the Nevi'im, with the prophets and the tzaddikim, the spiritual masters. Sheshem yiparach be'atzmo kaval lifneim b'siper lehem goder tzaro. That the Hashem Yiparach himself, he receives their face and he speaks to them in their pain, kivyachol, so to speak. Sheyesh lo me'avonot Yisrael merabim, that there is to them, that there's so much averot amongst the Jewish people that it's increasing more and more, that we are doing things that are not aligned with spiritual reality, that are not aligned with Hashem's Torah. Uchshehem chizku devarav Elohim silu tov al Yisrael. Like that they strengthen in their matters and they don't, they're not finding the good on the Jewish people. Hidkir alehem ma'od. And these tzaddikim that they're makpid on them, that they hold them to this standard that they're not living with, and it's even more intense because of the level that they're personally at. Like we see with Hosea Hanavi, with Eliyahu, and with Eliyahu, Shamar, like it says, Kano Kineti. Shamar lo, like it said about Eliyahu, that he had such a high level of vigilance and vengeance for spirituality. Shamar lo, ve'et Elisha ben Shafat timshach lenavi tachtecha. Uferish Rabbi Tenuzal, Shamar lo I ifshicha b'nutecha. You know, with this we'll stop. We'll continue this tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. Does anybody have any questions from today's lesson? B'ezrat Hashem, we'll do another lesson tomorrow morning before I go home to Queens. Do we have any questions from today's lesson, or any comments? You could also put on the chat on the bottom as well. No? Okay. Everybody have an amazing, amazing day. B'ezrat Hashem. I hope to be able to teach a class tonight, either with somebody else or on my own. We'll see. I'll keep you in touch. You'll go check the Tzion Breslov WhatsApp groups to see what's going on. And everybody have an amazing, amazing day. Thank you so much, everybody.